United Nations had expressed alarm over the recent events in Venezuela, particularly US military action and the capture of the Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro, with the Secretary General calling it a dangerous precedent. There is an ongoing meeting going on condemning the US action. You can see the visuals of it live on the screen. As I mentioned, the Secretary General called it a dangerous precedent. Yes, and UN Secretary General, in fact, Antonio Guterres had expressed deep concerns that the rules of the international law and the UN Charter have not been respected when US took this action of capturing the Venezuelan president and brought him to New York along with his wife. Now, UN Security Council is conducting these emergency meetings, and in fact, US President Donald Trump had openly threatened countries other countries in South and Central America, such as Mexico, such as Cuba, such as Colombia, against similar action, and also threatened the interim Venezuelan president right now to fall in line or she will face severe action. So that's the UN Security Council holding these discussions right now.
This morning. Mr. President, members of the Security Council, we meet at a grave time following the 3 January United States military action in the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. The broad outlines of the events of Saturday have been widely reported. Early that day, U.S. forces were active across Caracas and in the northern states of Miranda, Aragua, and La Guaira. The extent of casualties resulting from these actions remains undetermined. In a statement on social media on Saturday, President Donald Trump announced the conduct of a, I quote, large-scale strike against Venezuela and its leader, President Nicolás Maduro, end quote. During a press conference on Saturday, President Trump stated, and I quote again, "We are going to run the country until such time that we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition," end quote. The government of Venezuela has characterized the United States action as a military aggression carried out in civilian and military areas and as a flagrant violation of the Charter, posing a threat to international and regional peace and security. As we speak, President Maduro is being held in New York, accused by U.S. authorities, along with his wife, Celia Flores, of serious criminal offenses. What is less certain is the immediate future of Venezuela. I am deeply concerned about the possible intensification of the instability in the country, the potential impact on the region, and the precedent it may set for how relations between and among states are conducted. Mr. President, the situation in Venezuela has been a matter of regional and international concern for many years now. Attention on the country only grew following the contested presidential elections in July 2024. The panel of electoral experts I appointed at the Venezuelan government's request to accompany the elections highlighted serious issues. We have consistently called for the full transparency and the complete publication of the results of the elections. As reported to the Council on 23 December, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights has cataloged serious violations. On 3 January, Venezuelan interim President Delcy Rodriguez invoked an emergency decree throughout the national territory, extending additional security powers to the government. Mr. President, the latest developments follow a period of heightened tensions beginning in mid-August, as discussed in this Council on 2 previous occasions. I have consistently stressed the imperative of full respect by all for international law, including the Charter of the United Nations, which provides the foundation for the maintenance of international peace and security. I remain deeply concerned that rules of international law have not been respected with regard to the 3 January military action. The Charter enshrines the prohibition of the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state. The maintenance of international peace and security depends on the continued commitment of all member states to adhere to all the provisions of the Charter. Mr. President, Venezuela has experienced decades of internal instability and social and economic turmoil. Democracy has been undermined. Millions of its people have fled the country. The situation is critical, but it is still possible to prevent a wider and more destructive conflagration. I call on all Venezuelan actors to engage in an inclusive, democratic dialogue in which all sectors of society can determine their future. This entails the full respect of human rights, the rule of law, and the sovereign will of the Venezuelan people. I also urge Venezuela's neighbors and the international community more broadly to act in a spirit of solidarity and in adherence to the principles, laws, and rules erected to promote peaceful coexistence. I welcome and am ready to support all efforts aimed at assisting Venezuelans in finding a peaceful way forward.
Let's take a look at how the market fared today. Benchmark index hit a record high before it came under some pressure and failed to defend the 26,300 mark. Nifty Bank too hit a record high for the second straight session. While the mid-caps underperformed, small caps surged. Now India VIX, which surged to 8% earlier in the day, cooled off to 6%. Realty sector was the top sectoral gainer, courtesy the Q3 updates. On the other hand, IT along with oil and gas were the top sectoral losers.
All right, moving on to a counter that was in focus today, Trent, that reported its Q3 FY26 business update. The company's standalone revenue from sales of products surged 17% as compared to last year. They opened 17 Westside stores and 48 Zudio stores in the quarter, and their portfolio, as far as stores are concerned, included 278 Westsides, 854 Zudio, and 32 stores across other lifestyle concepts.
Now, SBI Fund Management, India's largest asset management company, has appointed 9 banks to manage its $1.2 billion initial public offering. SBI Fund, that operates SBI Mutual Fund, is likely to file draft document for the IPO plan with SEBI and stock exchanges this quarter. Anurag Joshi brings in the details.
State Bank of India and French money manager Amundi are progressing with their plans for the $1.2 billion initial public offering of SBI Funds Management, the country's biggest asset management company that manages SBI mutual funds. They have appointed banks for the upcoming IPO, and the book running lead managers appointed for the IPO are Axis Bank, BofA, Citi, HSBC, ICICI Securities, SBI Capital Markets, JM Financial, Kotak Mahindra Capital, and Motilal Oswal. So they are all bankers on the SBI Mutual Fund IPO. Various banks had submitted their bids for the to participate in the SBI Funds IPO last month, and the deadline for submitting the bids had ended on December 8. SBI Funds Management is a venture of SBI and Amundi. SBI holds a majority equity stake, and Amundi has a significant minority stake in the company. And the asset management company is looking to file its draft red herring prospectus for the upcoming IPO in this quarter, that is by March 31st. Now, the indications so far show that the valuation for the company ahead of the IPO is around $12 billion, and that's something that can change. And 10% is what SBI and Amundi are planning to sell. So that is going to be about $1.2 billion is going to be the likely size of the IPO. SBI is planning to divest 32 million shares, that's 6.3% equity stake in the IPO, and Amundi India Holding will sell 18.8 million shares, that's 3.7% of its holding. And SBI Mutual Funds, currently it's managing 12 trillion rupees of assets, that's 12 lakh crore. This is the largest asset management company in the country.
Right, moving on then, the Ministry of Railways has revealed that Indian Railways spent about 80.5% of its total budget by December 2025 end, and this spending is 6.5% higher than last year. My colleague Charu is now joining us with the details.
So this was the annual budget that the ministry had gotten to deal with its, annual expenses, and this was about 2.5 lakh crore. Out of this, over 80% has already been spent on several modernizing techniques as well as increasing the capacity for passengers to be taken from one place to another, increasing the number of tracks, increasing the surveillance, increasing the benefits that passengers get when they avail the railway services. Now, this was 6.5% higher than the budget spends as compared to December 2024. In fact, the amount of investment for the past few years have also increased in the railway sector, taking it to newer heights, as now the number of Vande Bharats that the ministry is operating is close to 164, whereas they have 30 other, Amrit Bharat trains. Apart from this, they are also trying consistently to increase the modernization and electrification of sorts of all of their amenities, and they have also started with Kavach train programs to increase the security of passengers.
Moving on, sources tell ET now that the Power Ministry will hold meeting with states on next generation power sector reforms this month. My colleague Prakash joins in with the details on the agenda.
Well, that's an important development coming in, and a very positive development for the power sector, as we are learning that the government will hold meeting with the states on next generation power sector reforms this month. In fact, the meeting is scheduled for January 22-23, where some key issues are likely to be discussed. In fact, the Power Ministry will build consensus on proposed power sector reforms, a very significant development coming in. Most importantly, this meeting is being held following Prime Minister's review of power sector's performance, and therefore some key issues are likely to be discussed. Sources are also indicating that the discussions to focus on comprehensive DISCOM reforms, issues related to financial package for DISCOM privatization and the franchise model to be discussed. Along with that, you are aware that the Power Ministry has been following states for listing of their DISCOMs on exchanges for better governance and profitability. Therefore, this issue is also on the agenda and further discussion will take place. Along with that, when it comes to Electricity Amendment Bill, the new draft of the Electricity Amendment Bill has already been issued, in fact, for public consultation, and Power Ministry will seek states' views and also try to build consensus on new amendments which has been suggested by Standing Committee on Energy. And the bill, proposed bill, is likely to be tabled in the budget session of Parliament.
All right, as Budget 2026 approaches, ET now hits the road with Budget Yatra 2026, a nationwide journey that's beyond boardrooms and balance sheets. From industrial clusters to startup hubs, trading floors to factory floors, we bring you the ground-level voices shaping India's budget expectations. We begin in Odisha, then head to Chennai and Indore, capturing what India Inc., MSMEs, investors and workers want from Budget 2026. Here's what Jude's got for us. Let's take a sneak peek.
On ET Now, we're traversing India's top cities and industries, all in the hope to find answers to just one question. What does India Inc. want from Budget 2026? So from Odisha's DISCOMs to Chennai's auto component corridors, we put the focus on policy, growth and budget wish lists. So join me in Chennai as I track how the Trump tariffs have impacted business at auto ancillary industries and whether the component ecosystem is keeping up with India's big EV shift. And we'll be bringing you these stories through exclusive conversations with the voices that matter. All this on Budget Yatra 2026, only on ET Now.
Looks like it's silly season in Premier League football after Chelsea parted ways with Enzo Maresca. the churn continues. Now, Ruben Amorim has been sacked as the manager of Manchester United. The decision comes after an underwhelming stint at Old Trafford, where the United endured their worst season in 24-25 campaign. While Amorim showed early signs of promise, that momentum quickly faded. Manchester United now sit 6th on the points table, well adrift of their former dominance, a stark reminder of how far the Red Devils have fallen from their glory days.
All right, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Tonight. Shabani and I will take your leave. Thank you so much for tuning in.